In this video, I want to give a second method for converting in the metric system. Now, we've already worked quite a bit on using the unit conversion factor method in order to do conversions in the metric system, but here I want to present a shortcut that we can take. So to introduce this, what I want to do first is just write down three of the results we got in previous videos. So one of the things we came up with using the unit conversion factor method is that 25 hectometers is the same as 250,000 centimeters. We also found that 1,600 decagrams is the same as 16 kilograms. And finally, we found that 341.58 centiliters is the same as 0.0034158 kiloliters. Now again, we found all these results based on the unit conversion factor method that we learned back in section 1.3. But what I want you to notice is that on both sides of the equal sign in each of these instances, the non-zero digits are exactly the same. Okay? And in fact, all that's changed is where the decimal point is. Okay? So what I want you to do is first look at this chart that I've made at the top here. This is just a list of the prefixes that we use in the metric system. There are prefixes besides the ones up here, but these are the ones we're going to focus on for our purposes. And this chart is listed from biggest to smallest. Okay, so for example, a kilometer is much bigger than a millimeter. Okay, so from largest to smallest, and we're counting the base unit as its own prefix in a sense, okay, or missing prefix, but it's a spot in our chart. And so what I want you to look at here is we have 25 hectometers, and that turned into 250,000 centimeters. Well, if you look in this chart, I can go from hecto to centi. If I move to the right 4 spots in this chart. But also notice that if I start off with 25 hectometers, then if I do that same thing with the decimal point, right? Because the decimal point in 25 is to the right of the 5. If I do that same thing, move it to the right 4 places, just like I did in the chart, I end up with the number of centimeters that is equivalent to 25 hectometers. Okay, and we'll look at this, see if this holds for our other 2 examples below. Let me just erase this though so that things don't get too cumbersome up here. Okay, so let's take a look at 1,600 decagrams turning into 16 kilograms. Okay, well, deca is right here. Kilo is 2 to the left, so that means I would have to go back 2 in the chart, in fact 2 to the left in the chart, to get from deca to kilo. Well, if you take 1,600 decagrams, notice that what you end up doing is going 2 places to the left of where the decimal was in decagrams to get to the 16 kilograms. Okay, so again, I moved the decimal place the same number of places as I jumped spots in the chart, and of course also in the same direction. All right, and then finally we have this 341.58 centiliters, and that's supposed to turn into 0.0034158 kiloliters. Okay, so here's centi all the way over here on the right. I have to go back 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 spots in the chart to get from centi to kilo. And if we take a look at starting with centi, where the decimal point is between the 1 and the 5, if I go to the left 5 places there, and of course add zeros when I jump empty spaces, I end up with my number of kiloliters. All right. So by making this chart, I've created a shortcut that certainly works for those 3 examples we've already done, but in fact this works all the time. So let's put this into practice with 2 fresh examples. All right, to see how this would work. So I have 28 kilometers that I want to turn into decimeters. Okay, and of course the unit conversion factor method still works just fine. It's just I think you can see by now that this is a much quicker method, if we can use it. So I'll start off with my 28 kilometers. And I know that the decimal is really hanging out to the right of the 8 if I don't see a decimal in my number. And so to go from kilo to deci, I've got to go 1, 2, 3, 4 places. So that means I'm going to do the same thing down here in my 28. I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, 4 places to the right, and all these empty spaces I jump, of course, become zeros. So what we have here is that 28 kilometers is equivalent to 280,000 decimeters. All right, now in this last example here, we want to convert 380 milliliters to deciliters. Just grab a new color here. I'll go ahead and grab yellow. So we have 380 milliliters, okay? And we want to go to deciliters. So milli is all the way on the right. To go from milli to deci, we have to go to the left 2. And so I will do the same thing in my number. So my decimal's hanging out here to the right of the 0. So I'm going to go left 1, 2. And so what I have is that 380 milliliters is equivalent to 3.8 deciliters.